Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the fact that Bitcoin, I just checked a few minutes ago, and it's actually under $100,000, which I don't care who you are, that's super frustrating. I've mentioned many times on this channel, my wife and I are OG hodlers, 10 plus years in Bitcoin. And so we're not super affected by the swings, but I have to say this cycle with all of the tailwinds of ETFs and institutional money and sovereign money coming into, it has been frustrating even for us, especially since we topped 125, and it looked like, it just seems like Bitcoin should be legitimately at a much higher price than it is now. And as I've also mentioned, I think it's a little bit frustrating for us in the fact that we're also at the point where we're ready to benefit from Bitcoin now, and I'll talk through some of the ways that we're trying to do that right now. Now we do have I guess 3 buckets that I was going to cover a little bit later in the video, but we've got our Bitcoin on chain as our main savings account. We also have a brokerage account that has some of the ETFs and some of these income ETFs, and then the third bucket is my coaching, consulting, and contract activities. So we don't have any real estate. We're not really real estate investors. So essentially what we're trying to do right now, and I think it's also important to mention that, the other day when Bitcoin, when the markets basically dumped, I looked in my brokerage account, which consists of taxable brokerage, IRA, and HSA. It tanked like 16K in that day. So it was, it's not fun. It's not fun, and I would say that mentally we're normally pretty buttressed against those things, but this is even affecting us as well. So I still want to encourage this posture, as a Bitcoiner, maybe a new Bitcoiner, and maybe you're kind of experimenting with some of these alternative approaches like we are. I think it's important to still have a mindset, a savings and investing mindset. So I think it's important that you're constantly assessing when you're getting into Bitcoin, however you're doing it. Assess your risk tolerance, your cash reserves, and then also your sanity. Again, we're OG, we've been around for a really long time, but the posture that we're in right now is that we want to start building Bitcoin income. And the way that we're looking at doing that, so we're moving from, this long-term growth outlook where we're looking at the capital appreciation of Bitcoin. Yes, we still believe that that's going to, continue to rise, but we're looking to mix that with, some short-term income. And so right now we're experiencing with BTCI, which is a covered call ETF. I made a video, I think last week, when the dividends or the distributions came out, and we made in our first month about close to $900, just under $900. I'm also looking into STRC, or I think it's called Strike or Stretch by MicroStrategy. So we're trying to figure out this balance in our more TradFi accounts of long-term Bitcoin growth, and then also income Bitcoin growth, staying out of things like, the total stock market, total stock market index, like the more TradFi things. And we're doing this in an environment, and I've started to speak a little bit more vociferously about this, where I think that there are a lot of us in this space, straddling this space. Maybe you're into personal finance, maybe you're actually part of the FIRE movement, or maybe you're a Bitcoiner, or maybe you're kind of where I am and some other, creators like Brian Harrington. He's got a great channel. You should totally follow him as well. You're caught between these two worlds of Bitcoin maximalism and these, maybe FIRE loving, but no, they're into personal finance, they're into FIRE, but they're not totally sold on Bitcoin yet. And so I think there's a group of us that are sort of emerging that are seeing that, there's a middle ground here. And that's kind of what I want to talk about and promote on this channel, is that if you're, YouTube is basically telling me that I'm talking to 25 to 55 year olds that are sort of, wealth building enthusiasts, and this could be through Bitcoin, this could be through FIRE, it could be through regular personal finance, it might even be through trading. I'm not a trader as of yet, something that I'm actually interested in experimenting with. while I'm a non-toxic Bitcoin maximalist, I totally here for the revolution. I think it's the best money. It's way better than fiat for all the reasons that we all talk about all the time. But the reality is, and I think a growing number of us are being okay with talking about this, the fact that we do still live in a fiat world. Like we still, even if you're holding all of your savings in Bitcoin, at some point you're going to have to, you're going to have to sell some of that or borrow against it. Or, we talk about using the Fold card or the Bitcoin MasterCard all the time on this channel, but you're going to have to convert some of that to fiat. And so I'm personally just kind of tired of all of the Bitcoin maxi cliches, a lot of the, kind of hopium channels. Now, I still consume that stuff because I'm still, like I said, at my heart, I'm still a Bitcoin maximalist, but I'm sick of, change the money, change the world, have fun going broke, like I talked about in a video a couple of days ago, addressing Bitcoin maximalists, if you don't do it this way, if you don't do self-custody this way, then you're absolutely going to get wrecked. I'm just really kind of over all of that. So trying to, just do these short little talks, as a community, to stoke conversation, to find what this middle ground is for the masses. Now, I'm talking a lot about this presentation that I saw at a conference last year about the next 100 million adopters of Bitcoin, the next 100 million Bitcoin users, and how most of us that have been in Bitcoin for, since 2023 may have been the cutoff point, but for most of us that are more maximalist in our mindset, we're considered early adopters. And usually the bell curve for, adoption of any technology, which Bitcoin is definitely a technology, is the first 15% are the early adopters. They're willing to get uncomfortable. They're willing to suffer the arrows and the slings of people that think they're crazy. They're willing to learn new software and new hardware. But I think that part of my passion in, kind of executing or trying to start or add to this conversation is that this next piece of the bell curve, and I'll throw this up on the screen here, is basically people that don't care about what we care about. They want the benefits of Bitcoin, but they don't want to do all the things that we've done. And they don't want to embody all of these cliches and hodling. And, they don't want to learn another language. They want Bitcoin to meet them where they are, and they want to receive the benefit of that. I'll also throw this up on the screen, and I'll do a separate video about this. But we just increased our BTCI holdings, and in all three of those buckets inside of my brokerage account, we've got 1,075 shares of BTCI. That's about a $62,600 investment right now. And the estimate that I'm kind of coming up with right now, based on, sort of worst case scenario that I've seen, like they paid out $1.28 per share last month. It looks like this month it could pay out about $13.76. So I'm very, very interested and very focused on, and I'm actually in Brian Harrington's, I'm a member of his channel, which puts us in this awesome Discord group where we're all sort of talking about, some of these strategies. So if this is something that's interests you, I would invite you to like the video, share it with a friend, subscribe to the channel. What do you think about all this? Are you a reforming or recovering Bitcoin maximalist? Are you part of the FIRE movement? You're just trying to get your feet wet with all this stuff? Love to know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.